Welcome to the Empower Hour, where Christine and I chat about all sorts of stuff. We're adding some stuff tonight, but I first of all wanted to thank you for joining us. And there is a chat. I do not monitor the chat. That is something that the nimble fingers and eagle eyes of Christine does. But we just want to welcome you. And again, we started this a long time, not a long time ago, but last month. We get to say last month, based on just wanting to create a space where people could gather and chat and learn a little bit about. We talk a little bit about energy. We talk a little bit about the things we talk with our coaching clients. We focus on. We added something tonight that's going to be called. We're going to talk a little bit about a book that we recently read, and then we have the magic hat, which is tonight. I forgot to put them in the hat. It's it might be the magic throw it on the table, but the hat have to do with topics. So anyway, that's a whole bunch of stuff. But my name is Molly. I am a personal coach who has a background in. One of my friends who runs a writing retreat in Tuscany said I'm a resilience authority, which I thought was hilarious. So I've actually put that on my business card. And then Christine is a business coach. I'm going to let her talk a little bit as soon as I be quiet. But yeah, we're just going to chit chat about stuff and hopefully walk away from this empowered. What are your thoughts, Christine? I'm going to zip it and I'm going to go find a hat.
Ah, awesome. Yes. Hello, everybody. I am Christine Mortensen. I, like Molly, am also a coach, except I have a little bit more of a focus on the business side of things. And if you're wondering what the heck this magic hat thing is that Molly's talking about, every week, if you haven't seen it yet, we pull from a hat and it magically gives us a topic to talk about. So all of this is very off the cuff. We like to show instead of tell what we are all about and how we work. So we thought how better to do that than to pull a topic randomly from a hat. If you have any particular questions or any particular topic you would like to see us riff on and get our advice on, please do feel free to put it into the chat and we will, if we're live, we'll address it right away. If we do happen to not catch it while we're live, we will either answer in the chat or we'll add it to the hat for next week. So we are here every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central, and we, like Molly said, are going to talk about the book Energy Codes. I almost said a different book that I'm currently reading. Like, not that one. We'll talk about that at some point. Um, we both read the book Energy Codes, and we have a few highlights from that. We're going to pull from the Magic Hat, like I said. But ahead of that, what we like to do each week is something new that we've added. Like Molly said, we like to add things as we grow. We like testing things, big fans of trying what works and seeing what works. Um, with if you watch any tarot card readers on social media, it's take what resonates, leave the rest. Very much aligned here in this space as well. And one exercise I've come across in the past has been not a breathing exercise. We've done that a couple times. If you want to hear about box breathing, go back to last week or I think the first week we did it as well. It's a classic. Is something that helps ground you in your body physically. And you can do this anywhere. You can do this in the middle of a meeting if you feel like you just need to get back your focus. If there's something going on, online and you just want to be present in your body. It's very simple and no one will know that you're doing this. You can even do it in your pocket if you wanted to, or the side of your desk or chair. And what you basically do, all it is you take your index finger and your thumb, and it could be any finger actually, and you just put them together just very gently. You don't have to push very hard, but then you just rub. And you just rub just enough so that you can feel the teeny, teeny, tiny ridges of your own fingerprints. And you just do that for like 15 seconds. If you want, you can try to change fingers. Do it to each one. It gives you a little bit of a different sensation. In some cultures, if these are all these each of these are different mudras. I'm just starting to learn a little bit about that. So I don't have any information more on that for you, but it's unrelated, but did remind me of this. And it's just something that you just feel it. You can start to feel a little warmth and you start to really just kind of come into your body if you just not listen to someone like me yammer on about feeling your fingertips. So Molly, are you feeling anything?
Yeah, and the thing that's interesting about that is it really does have a different tactile feeling based on the finger you're choosing. And the reason that Christine and I wanted to do this centering exercise was that I'm not sure if anyone's noticed, but we're really experiencing a pretty chaotic environment outside of this particular Zoom call. Something, the world's on fire in certain spaces, and it can be really easy to get sucked into someone else's drama. It can get really tense and stressful. And so these types of micro behaviors are just teeny little ways that you can pull your energy back to yourself. You can bring your power back to yourself. And the paradox of this little exercise is that it seems so teeny. Well, A, because it is, but
Mhm.
also it's also ironically very powerful because you are forced to take your brain offline from freaking out about whatever's on fire in whatever current dumpster in your neighborhood or your workspace or whatever. And you are pulling all that focus right back here to the world's smallest violin, and it's playing a concerto just for you. If you like Rachmaninoff, you might go. Anyway, but yeah, that's the thing that I really think is interesting about this is that even noticing the different nerve signature and that message to your point, Christine, is great. Is that your body is giving it a different message? So that's cool.
I love
Anyway,
that.
I hope it helped
Thank
everyone out there. Introduce
you.
everyone else.
Yeah. Always
Well,
like to leave everybody with a little something that they can take with them. So, and just to get us grounded as we move forward. So, speaking of getting centered in our bodies and feeling in touch with ourselves, literally and metaphorically, Energy Codes, the book by Dr. Sue Morter. Um, Molly, what were your was like I would say is there one key takeaway that you had from the book? I know there were probably many.
so I think that for me, first of all, when I first read it, I think within the first chapter, I had texted you and I said, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome! I don't like to say you need to read this, but I thought, wow, this is some really great stuff." And so I
I
love
will
to share.
never, by the way, be offended by you ever saying, or I will never feel a way by you saying you need to read this because I probably will need to read it.
Well, the thing that I love so much about books is that when you do come across one that you really love or that really speaks to you, you want to share that experience with someone else. And I just thought, especially given the work that Christine and I have been doing for the past 6 months or so, has
Mhm.
really been focusing a lot on energy. And I'm a Reiki practitioner. I don't know if anyone out there knows that, but I'm a Reiki practitioner. And that has to do a lot with meridians and the we're basically in a very very stripped down way, humans are electromagnetic beings that are walking around the planet, and we have electricity and magnetism and all these types of things. And so I just was really struck by the fusion of the woo. And you know what, I'm going to finally stop apologizing for the woo because the woo is real. Sometimes I've been watching people talk about woo woo and almost um being embarrassed to talk about it. And you know what, I'm not going to be embarrassed about woo anymore. And so but I do
Hey,
love
I've been waiting for that. I was
I'm
like, every time you
celebrating.
apologize for it, I'm like, the woo is awesome and we need it more than ever. And like the woo is becoming less woo the more we learn about neuroscience and literally yesterday, I don't want to derail your thought, but literally yesterday I learned something from quantum physics called the impact parameter. I'll get to that later. I'm gonna talk about you. I don't want to
Well,
derail
so
you.
let's get back to the impact parameter right after I just mentioned the
Yes.
whole the concept of what I loved about energy codes from the start was the fusion of woo and science, to your point, because Dr. Sue is a doctor and has spent her life with physiology and all of these things that are we are the intersection. And also very briefly, um, if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, the FutureU newsletter, last week was it Friday's
Yeah.
edition? Um, we basically started off. We kick off it with a little bit of a like a story and some things that are coming up and whatnot. But we kicked off that one with the an experience I had with walking out of my house and losing my Wi-Fi signal, and I had to flip over to my cellular um, plan or whatever while I was outside my building. And again, it picked up the signal and it started playing the music again. And that just speaks to the fact that we are walking through energy all of the time. Wi Fi signals, ultraviolet rays, infrared rays, the dog barking, the siren down the street. These are all frequencies that are moving through the world that we inhabit. So I just really I think my biggest takeaway was how Dr. Mortar really brought the science and the woo together in a very clear and concise way, because sometimes doctors can get super sciencey and it's difficult to follow, and that wasn't the case with this book. I really felt immediately as if I was talking with this very smart person across the table from me, and we were talking about energy. We were talking about something that she knows back and forth. So
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a great takeaway. My goodness. I listened to the audiobook, so I do think that this is definitely a book that is worth like physically reading. There are a lot of exercises in it that I do need to even still go back through and re-listen to. There's an accompanied PDF, as there are with most books these days, which is very, very helpful. There's a concept of the torus man, which helps explain some energy flow. And that has parallels with meridians too, right? She doesn't get into meridians too much, but no.
not as
Okay.
much. Oh no, I mean
Okay.
I was just saying that she doesn't get into meridians as much, but she does indeed mention them. And the
Okay.
tourist man would be, it's not a meridian per se, but it is an energy pathway that the
Hmm.
body processes through the meridians. So
Got it.
it uses them to traverse, but
Got it.
it's meridian plus.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I've been meaning to ask you that and I just kept forgetting until like just now. Um, of course, the things you think of only when you're alive. Uh, um, but yeah, one of my I think the one of the biggest impressions I was left with, God, there's so many, so it's hard to pick one, but um how exciting it is right now. I'm trying to remember back to like when that book was actually published because it's a few years old. Um, but even since the time of that writing, to now, just how much science is able to say how much of like Eastern practices, I don't even have a good word for it. How spot on a lot of them have been this whole time, and a lot of us in the West have just been like, oh, oh, yoga. Like, no. Um, and also while reading that book, I have been going on a very deep yogic uh journey. And like even like in the Shavasana, which is if you don't do yoga, it's the pose at the end, which is also called corpse pose, where you're just resting because it's the death of your practice and then the start of a going off of your mat and into your life. And like just to eat some of the breath work practices that she has you go through, even though I do need to go through them again. The parts I did catch on have really helped. And just I have so many things to say. It's like going back to like what you were saying about the kind of chaotic, I'm not even gonna say kind of, why am I adding that in there? The very chaotic times we live in right now, we need to regulate our nervous systems now more than ever. And so, um, I want to say that book came out in like 2019. I feel like it was pre-pandemic. I'm gonna look it up. But um,
Well,
it's
you
needed
look it
now
up.
more than ever.
Yeah. So you look it up, and I wanted to mention and basically piggyback off what you had mentioned with yoga. And I did have the book because sometimes I have to either read it out loud for my brain to get it, or I can reread it. I can go back and go, okay, da 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 da, da, and then it really gets in. But the second thing I wanted to mention is that sometimes when you're reading the explanation of how to do something and you're like, put your left foot here and your right thing here, and you're like, and then when I look at the picture on the page, I'm like, yeah, that's not at all what I was doing with my body.
She
So
does go
does
into yoga moves too, right?
so
I think
she
I think
does
I
have a
might have skipped
YouTube
some of
channel.
that
That's okay. Well,
because
two things.
I'm like,
One,
oh, I do that already. Sorry.
that's okay. The one thing is that she does have a YouTube channel where she actually shows these moves. So for those of you who aren't familiar with yoga or who don't do that, I do want to also put the disclaimer: listen to your body. So don't go out there trying to do a downward dog and hurt yourself. Did I lose Christine? Hello, hello. Where'd your face go? Oh, there she is. Woo! But so just definitely in this recommendation, please, please, please respect your body and don't do anything that's going to hurt yourself. But if you don't know what the book means, there are YouTube videos that she has put together that show the breathing exercises. They show the form that you're supposed to have. And what's really cool about the body and the form is that, and this is something that I go over when I present to companies or speaking engagements where I talk about happy for no reason, um, which Dr. Sue and Marcy Scheimoff work together a lot, which is how I found the book. Anyway, when I speak or train people about happy for no reason, there is a physiology that your body actually assumes when you have certain poses. So you can Google this. If you do the hands on the hips pose, there are certain um, biochemical things that go on in your body, and it has cortisol things or dopamine this or whatever, and it just is a so anyway. There just is something to be said for your body, and there's also here's another small little tangent. Then I'll because I want to hear about what you were talking about with quantum thingy, but
Okay. Yes.
um, something as simple as smiling, even if you don't feel happy, will set off stuff in your neurology, in your head. So even if you're not feeling happy or you're not feeling positive, the act of smiling will your body will go, oh, I guess we're happy. Okay, let's flip on the happy synapses because the muscles in the face are saying we're happy. So let's okay. So again, it's very weird how does form follow function or does what's the symbiosis with that? So anyway, so tell me about your quantum thing.
Yes. So literally yesterday, and this is from Star Talk, so you can look it up yourself. If you're familiar with Neil deGrasse Tyson's like podcast. And so they'll often publish out edited versions, which are easier to consume. And I am addicted to them. And sometimes when the dog wakes me up at, 1 or 2 in the morning, and I can't get back to sleep, I will binge watch some Star Talk episodes. Anyways, this was one of those moments in the wee hours this morning. And oh, I forget the other scientist that they had on. I'm blanking on his name, but he comes on often. And again, going back to like what we were talking about with our centering exercise and the feeling, you're not actually touching anything. You're not actually touching I'm not touching this mug of coffee at 6:20 in the evening. Um, there's something called the impact parameter. And even though you can feel this, what you're feeling is the energy of the molecules, of the electrons, even, and those around the atom. So if you remember from class, there's the structure of an atom is protons, neutrons, electrons, right? And electrons are the floaty ones that can't actually be measured, which blows my mind. Anyways, um, There, if you get microscopic and like, yes, they're touching, okay, so there's that, right? But if you get close enough, like look close enough, they're actually not, like there is actually space in between anything that is touching. There is actually just these two fields. I don't know how to make us there's these fields that are just, those are overlapping, and that's the touching, but there's not actually like atoms against atoms. There is space. So that just was a mind fuckery. And just
So
no other way around that.
I'm gonna say something that's super gonna date me, and hopefully, if someone's watching this out there who's just as old as I am, does anyone remember the WKRP Cincinnati episode where Tim Reed talks the gang member into staying in school if he can explain what an atom is in less than 3 minutes or something like that? Anyway, if
No,
you
I
were,
remember the show. I don't remember that episode.
yeah, there's basically this really smart kid who's going down the wrong path, and before he became a DJ, Dr. Venus Flytrap was a high school teacher, and so he talks about the electrons and the neutrons orbiting the atom, which is, in the nucleus, and he talks about it's an atom, and he's like, anyway, it's just, if you would like to know, just email us, hello at meetfutureu.com, and I will send the, I might actually put it out on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, but it's a classic episode. So yeah, I'm officially old. I prefer to think of it as someone who has an amazing memory for pop culture references that are, I'm ready for Jeopardy whenever, they give me a
Yeah.
call.
There you go. So this is another rabbit hole that I've been down before, and this is probably more woo than what we normally get into. But if you want to go down a fun little rabbit hole, if you want to go to the CIA.gov website and you
While
want
it
to,
lasts. Sorry.
what?
While it
Wow,
lasts.
alas, oh Lord, oh
Sorry,
boy,
little gallows humor there for you kids out
ooh,
there on Tuesday night. My
oh boy.
apologies.
Dark humor, I love it.
Sorry.
We're at, if we don't laugh, we cry, right?
Oh my
Like
God,
that's
amen.
right. Like I'm here for the laughter. My goodness. So yeah, while you can, while supplies last, if you go to CIA.gov, and or if you just Google, I don't know how long that's gonna last either. Monroe Institute, comma CIA. Um, there's a whole bunch of declassified, like now declassified, topics about energy, and then there's a lot of stuff, like that's in Sue Morter's book that's actually been in the CIA's warehouse or wheelhouse, sorry, for decades. There was an entire program in the 80s through the public school programs that were to find gifted kids, meaning like kids that had psychic abilities and stuff like that. And in there, there was, I had only browsed through the PDF. So I'm doing this because I was scrolling through, and there were a lot of similar diagrams to what was in energy codes. So the Taurus man diagram of like breathing and everything that was in there too. And I was just like, oh, that's interesting. And I found them separately through, like, we were reading the book together, and then there was something else that I had seen independently that was probably something on Instagram. I don't know. That I was like, oh, I'm gonna go on a CIA government.gov rabbit hole. Um, and there we are. So those are, the PDFs are available. Enjoy. Have fun.
Well, to your point, I think that the woo is getting less woo because the science is catching up. And I also, and this is going to sound super tinfoil, whatever, but I also think that the woo is getting less woo because I know that when I first got on the internet back in the mid 90s, trivia fact, I have never had dial up in my entire time. I've always had either broadband or T1. So I've never had dial up, even in the very beginnings of or whatever. I've never
Ow,
had that. Never. I
that's
don't know,
not
but I've
fair.
always had broadband. But I remember the very first, oh, I guess the first month I was online, never slept because I was plugged into the world's knowledge. It was basically like having the living in the Library of Congress and the Alexandria, and just every library in the world was open 24 hours a day, and I was able to read it. And I think that some of the things that have to do with these studies and whatnot, um, and every study, not just the CIA, but when you gatekeep information or knowledge, it not everyone knows about it. And when you have a democratization of access to information, um, you're able to cross reference and see if there is legitimacy to a specific thing. I mean, if I were going to say, "Hey, I heard that if you juggle coconuts, it cures cancer," uh, and I'm the only one saying it, then it's absolute balderdash, right? But if I have something that we say, and it's like, this source says it, this source says it, and then it's a compendium of it de-wooifies certain things because it's like, it's not so out there. These are things that are quantifiable, and anyway, so
Yeah. No, it's the whole scientific process, things are peer reviewed and it's all about being able to replicate the results, right? So, yeah, I mean, just being able to see brain scans and how things actually operate, seeing the synapses firing,
correct,
what fires together, wires together,
correct.
all
And
of.
I mean, oops, and not to get too far ahead because I think we'll probably cover this a little bit at the very end, but that was another reasons why we put together our coaching and our training stuff, is that we really wanted to bring nuts and bolts materials to behavior and relationships and mindset in a way that would be helpful because, you know ultimately what we want to do is to make people's lives better and more rewarding and more successful and blah blah blah. So again, I'm kind of getting ahead of ourselves on that.
No, you're spot on. Yeah, it's not like we're not like manifestation coaches, but all of this will help you to manifest whatever it is you want. This is all about, building the life you want to live, right? I have a business background. I am very rooted in logic and design and tech and ones and zeros, but also with like, an art degree. And so like there's that balance between science and, form and function and all of that. And so I feel like the science and the woo, there is a certain level of overlap. Like I'm not gonna get into like astrology. That's a little probably not sciencey, but whatever. It's fun. Um, but as far as, how do you set goals? How do you have your vision, your mission, and then how do you create these guideposts along the way toward those goals? That's like there's a bazillion and one people out there that can coach you on how to reach your goals, right? But like not in the way where we're also bringing the science, the neuroscience specifically, and then the proven exercises that marry it all together to make it work. And dare I say, fun.
Yeah, because I think that we're a drag. Totally. I wouldn't want to work with us. We're like a snooze fest.
Oh my God, we're the
Who are
worst.
those two people? Good heavens.
We're so lame.
Oh, oh my gosh, absolutely. But no, I would love to work with me. I do. I work with me every day.
I love me some me. God.
Oh man. All right. Well, that's. Oh, and then so basically, I kind of wanted to. Oh heavens to Betsy, it's 6:29. So, but I wanted to make sure that if you've enjoyed the little chit chat about Dr. Sue Mortar's book, the energy codes, we do have, like I said, we put together our email, our newsletter that goes out once a week. So we don't like to spam flood your inbox, but I don't. I think we can put it in the chat, or we can put it in the. I think it's in the
It's in the chat.
description or something. Yeah. So just subscribe. It's for free. And Dr. Sue's book was one we recommended 2 weeks ago, and
Mm-hmm.
now we've got
I
another
think
one
so.
that Joe's Dr. Joe.
Dr. Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural.
Yes.
Yes. I instantly, from the get-go, man, that book just bam right in it. Particularly resonates with my personal story as well because she talks about, or he talks about a woman who's, in her case, um, husband commits suicide. Mine did not. Mine sadly passed of a different way, but also very suddenly and unexpected. So, and it does overlap if you've read The Body Keeps the Score. That is also an intense book, but good. I have not finished it, but I'm also seeing overlap between that doctor's book as well, whom I can't remember the author of that book, but it's very good. Um, and so there's just a lot of really interesting recurring themes, and this Becoming Supernatural definitely has hit on many different levels so far. So, and I think
So,
I'm only like 3 chapters in, so
well,
highly recommend.
basically for me, when if a book grabs me in the first chapter or so, then I'll keep reading. I have gotten to the point in my life where if I'm not hooked by the first 3 chapters, it goes back into the world because it's like life's too short to force yourself to read a book that you do not like. So if you're in that position out there in YouTube land, you have my permission to say I'm not reading the rest of this book. It's not for me. That's
That
super.
is a fantastic boundary. I applaud your boundary setting there because yes, life is too short. I'm also currently reading Men Who Hate Women, and I'm literally only 17 minutes into it, and it's good. It's hard already to read. As a woman, it is difficult to hear about how much people hate you. Um, and I'm only 17 minutes in. So that's what partly why I picked up uh Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural, to like offset some of the ick of that book. But that I'm borrowing from the library. I have 10 days left on my hold, so we will power through that one lickety split.
I think you get like 12 renewals. So unless someone else wants it, you might have a little bit of wiggle room on that. But I just
Yeah.
basically wanted to just pop that in here is that, we added the chit chatting about a book feature this week. It's the very first time we did that. So let us know if that's something that you enjoy, or if there's a book that you're reading that you'd like, think that we might enjoy. I'm all for it. I love reading recommendations from people. But again, check out our newsletter if you haven't. It's in the chat apparently. And we kind of just drop these things here and there, and maybe we'll talk about becoming supernatural, being supernatural.
Becoming Supernatural.
Becoming supernatural. Maybe that'll be something in a future Empower Hour. Who knows? I happen to read 3 books at a time. It's how
Oh,
my brain processes information.
that's impressive.
But yeah, so I just wanted to invite people to make sure that if there's something you'd like us to read or suggest, let us know. I'm all for it. Um,
Yeah, and we also have a book nook in our Discord community, which I'm gonna put that into the little chat there as well. Um,
so Discord, you don't have to be part of the group coaching. If I want to clarify for folks, so if that's something you
yes.
want to just because we put a lot of stuff on that Discord channel. We put things
Yes.
self help hints. We put things about healthy eating.
Affirmations, motivation,
Yeah, and
our
that's been
book
fun
nook
for
where we
me.
talk about energy codes, and we'll talk about all sorts of other things that we're reading. Um, yes, and it's free for everybody. So we're kicking that off and getting that off the ground. So get in there and get chatty.
Let's do. Yeah, because going back to what we talked about at the very beginning is that we are going through. I haven't seen anything like this, what we're going through right now, ever in my entire life. I
People in the
do
world
recognize,
haven't.
yeah, and I do recognize, however, points of inflection because Christine and I both have a marketing and a media pedigree. We've seen aggregate data and the way that online communities specifically, and to a certain extent, out, in real life brick and mortar community, so to speak, how people behave. And we are at a place where having a community is going to be just a boon to your mental health. So if you're in a space and you're online somewhere in a space where you might not have a physical community, or you live in a, I grew up in a very small town in the middle of a cornfield. So if you're not in a place where you don't have that flesh and blood community, again, please keep coming to the Empower Hours. Please check the Discord channel. Get yourself a community and make sure that you're checking in with people, so that it just helps your mental health and your self care and all that kind of stuff. So
That's awesome. Shall we magic hat?
let's magic hat. All right.
All
So
right,
again,
magic hats. Okay, so here's how it works. Each week, we pull a random topic from the hat that Molly has in her hands, and I almost said in her stead. That's not, is that? That's not it. Whatever. Anyways, in her hands, and it can be about said business, self-care, relationships. It can be really about anything you want to hear about. And again, if you have a topic or a question that you like, we're doing this because, in case we don't have anyone live, or just so that we have something to talk about. But if there is something that you want to hear specifically from us about, put it into the chat and we will either answer it live or we will answer it in chat or next week. What'd
so
you get, Molly? Oh,
basically, yeah, these, well, the other thing that I do want to mention about these topics is that I wrote these out 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whatever, and then folded them in half. And I don't know what we're gonna pick.
oh,
Christine and I, this is one of our going. I love how Christine talks about show not tell. Um, so this exercise is also something we want to do for you guys, that just gives you an understanding of how we think on our feet. And it just, because sometimes you can go to like a webinar, you can go someplace and you just know that they are recording something, or they have how do you think about that, Christine? And she's like, So it's like, this is absolutely spontaneous. So
speaking of spontaneity, I thought we'd add a little magic and I get my unicorn.
it's,
Done, my
yep, it's great.
unicorn. But it's
Yep.
also like negative 20 degrees here.
So cold. It's like February. I don't know what Phil the rodent thingy said
8
three
degrees.
weeks ago, but the groundhog.
Oh, Groundhog's Day. I'm like, who the rodent? What?
Although there's a beaver in South Chicago. They found this huge honking beaver that's in some stream, and it's kind of like not the, it's not the crocodile that was up in Humboldt Park, but it's like they found this huge
Snap,
beaver.
snap the rapper. Wait, no.
I think they call him
Chance
Chance.
the Snapper.
Chance the Snapper.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
there's already a thing to name this beaver. So anyway, all right.
Oh, that's fantastic. I swear to you, I saw an otter in the Chicago River. My late husband thought I was nuts. And I was like, it could have been a really huge rat because, the city. I swear to God, it was an otter. It looked, and I think I've Googled it in the past, and I think there have been tales of otters in the river, but I'm like,
Okay.
unlikely. Anyways,
All right. So let's see what this says. But dum bum bum. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago. So if you did not join us, here's your chance. What is being mindful about, and how can I cultivate it? So
what is
basically,
being mindful about?
yeah, so basically how to define mindfulness and how
Mm,
can you cultivate it?
these are good topics, Molly.
What can I say? I really actually, I think I chose this one, um, or wrote this one down because, especially because of having a media and a marketing background, I think that buzzwords can be so much a part of shorthands for people's conversations, when those buzzwords are a barrier to actual communication and actually understanding. So whenever you see mindful, be mindful, or very mindful, very
Great to be
demure,
here.
exactly. So it's just like, what are you actually trying to say? What is mindfulness? And
Yeah.
then if you don't feel that you have mindfulness, or you're not mindful, how do you cultivate it?
That is a good one. Yeah, mindfulness. I mean, God, yeah, it has been diluted so much. And mindset too, I feel like has gone alongside it as well. It kind of gets lumped together like fix your mindset. Like, okay, how? What does that mean? Um, I like to think about it in terms of presence and being present. Being, I mean, if you want to get super pedantic, it's being full of your mind, right? So it's paying attention to your thoughts. And I would go so far as to say your thoughts, your words, and your actions. Those are the three things that we can actually control, barring any sort of, uh, brain um, uh, deficiencies in like chemical deficiencies. So like that aside, like in an average healthy human adult. Um, those are the three main things that we control. Those are the only three things that we can control actually is like how do you catch the ants, the automatic negative thoughts that we all suffer from, right? A negative Nelly running through our brain. How do we call her out and say, whoop, stop, nope, we're not going there. Or let her run her course and like make her go away. Um, you know, that's controlling our thoughts, being aware of our thoughts, noticing them, our words. I think that's a little maybe more obvious, having a filter when it's appropriate. And that's a wide swath. Your mileage may vary on that. And then our actions, absolutely. We don't have to react to everything. We shouldn't react to everything. Um, yeah, there's a whole story I can go into on that, but we can control how we can't always control what happens to us, but we always can control how we react. That's something um that really came to me after Lloyd passed away. I was like, I can let this consume me. I can completely let this make me a bitter person, or I can choose to deal with it, learn from it, and have it help me be a better human. And I'd like to think I chose that path instead. Um, and so yeah, I remember posting on Facebook saying that we don't always get to choose what happens to us, but we get to choose how we react. This is months later, but later I realized that's stoicism. I didn't know that was a stoic I don't know, principle might be a little far, but I was like, oh, okay. Whoops, I stumbled across that. So anyways, those are a lot of words for mindful from me.
Well, I think they were good words. And one of the things that I like when you mentioned the ants, um, automatic negative thoughts,
Mhm.
is that um, sometimes what I find with my clients is that when they identify those negative thoughts, instead of celebrating their noticing, they double down on being upset with themselves for having them. Oh man, I'm doing something wrong, or oh my gosh, I'm negative. And it's just like, think about how long you lived not even noticing they were there. Awareness, and I know we talked about this last week, but you know, mindfulness also has to do with awareness and being aware of what's going through your head, why, whose voice is it? Are you regurgitating something that someone told you? I actually, for the longest time, um, I was connected spiritually, mentally, whatever, to an 8-year-old boy who told me I had skinny legs in second grade. And so, I mean, for years, I thought to myself, Molly, you have ugly legs. They're skinny, they're chicken legs. da 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 da. And I realized one day, wait a second, you're still living your life as if you're an 8-year-old girl being told by an 8-year-old boy that he thought your legs were skinny. Who gives a rat's ass what this kid thought about my legs? But I mean, so sometimes mindful is an invitation for you to examine those thoughts and say, wait a second, whose thought is this? Is it true? And even if it is true, who gives a shit if I have chicken legs? They still move. They get me from point A to point B. So suck it, mister. But instead, for 30 years, I was controlled by an 8-year-old child who has no idea I even exist anymore, for that matter. So those are some things with mindfulness that I think about in terms of awareness, mindful of something, deciding if it's worth running. Does it deserve rent space in my head? If not, boot it out. If it keeps showing up, why does it keep showing up? Do some work on why. Is it valid? Is it something I need to handle? Maybe it's something that it keeps coming up because I haven't handled it, which I liked what you said earlier about
Letting it run its
letting it go,
course.
yeah, letting it run its course, because
That's exactly why I said it. Yeah. Like my negative Nancy or negative Nelly or whatever you want to call her. Yep.
if she doesn't feel like she's heard, she'll keep popping up until you listen to her, and then you can say, okay, thank you, you said your piece. You're Thank you for the lesson you taught me,
Mhm.
or I'm aware, you can go now. But she won't go away until she's had her chance to have,
Yeah. And
airtime.
like sometimes the further you push against something, this is also true in like any sort of like new way of eating that I don't want to say diet. Like if you any sort of nutrition program that you're going through, and if you're reducing you're taking things out, like let's say you're restricting carbs, right? Let's say you're going to do keto and you're going to keep it to like 30 net carbs, 30 net grams of carbs a day. You're probably, if you're just going to do it like quick and you don't ease into it, your sugar monster is going to be like, "Wah! Add into the carbs." And so every now and again, you have to like call attention to it, think about it, be conscious, okay, I'm gonna have a plate of pasta because my sugar monster and like with carbs or sugar, um, won't shut the up. And so something in order to appease it, sometimes you're like, yeah, okay, well maybe I'll have fruit instead. Like that's healthy sugar at least. So making those kind of compromises and like, but it starts with your mindfulness and being aware that it's even happening. Something that I also want to underscore about what you said is little stat. We think 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. 90 to 95% of those are exactly the same as what we thought yesterday.
Yep.
That's the definition of insanity almost, of like doing the same exact thing over and over again, right? If we're only having like 5% of our thoughts different, you're not being mindful. Like that's not mindfulness. We are running on systems that have just been coded into us in one way or another. There's so many different ways that can happen. I don't know that we have time to get into all of that, but we do in collab. We have 6 months to work together and work through those.
Yes. And so, first of all, the other part of that thing was, how do you develop mindfulness? And I think we've kind of been tiptoeing around it and dripping little hints of it in here and there. But awareness is the first thing. And actually, your stat that you just cited about how many thoughts we have per day is one of them that I again cite when I speak before a group about the Happy for No Reason methodologies. Um, and I mentioned that you can change your trajectory and cultivate more happiness by being by through your mind, through your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, things like that. And then I just make a distinction between thoughts and beliefs, because a lot of people interchange those. Oh, well, aren't my thoughts my beliefs? Yes and no. Your thoughts are like, if you can imagine snowflakes, those are your thoughts, and a belief is the snow drift. They accumulate. And so if you want to change a behavior, you've got to get rid of the belief first. It's the accumulation of the thoughts. So um, to your point of changing your thoughts, that's why things like affirmations are so helpful, or putting them up on um, your dashboard, or putting them on your refrigerator or your bathroom mirror, or however you put them so that they're right in your face, because seeing them will literally help you to stop thinking about the 95% of a repeat that you've been on for the past such and such days, weeks, months, years, and inject new thoughts in, for one thing. And then another way that I really, really do love doing is working with frequencies, going back to the very beginning of our conversation, in listening to frequencies. I'll actually have like either subliminal stuff on, or I'll have some sort of binaural beats or solfeggio. I think I mispronounced that. Is that
Solfeggio?
yeah? So I
Yep.
will have those in my head that are just different frequencies going through my head that disrupt the patterns of the delta waves and the things that are going through my head that are on autopilot. And so those are just ways that I literally change the landscape of my mind. Again, based on the fact that we are, I know it sounds really coarse and really terrible, but me sitting in this space right now, I've got a candle going, I've got lights on, I've got the Wi-Fi signal coming off here, and I am a permeable, gushy thing. And if you can imagine a Venn diagram of gravity and whatever going around me, it is interspersing with us, right? So when you listen to something, you are injecting a frequency into your head that is going to go through your mind, and it can alter that. So anyway, I'm way off the I'm
Nope.
going not really off topic, but I'm
Not going off topic at all.
okay.
Excuse me. Yeah, one thing I want to underscore in what you said is the affirmations. I absolutely love affirmations over time, and I'm talking 6 months to a year because they take time. There is no quick fix. If anybody out there is telling you like change your life in 3 days, like bullshit, okay? Like first of all, uh-uh. It takes a while to rewire your brain. Like you've been doing something for 30, 40 years, like that's going to take not another 30, 40 years, but it might take 2 or 3 to, undo some of it, right? Depending on what we're trying to rewire. So affirmations, I absolutely agree, are such a great way to start that rewiring process. I will caveat it with a but. You have to at least have a kernel of a belief in it in order for it to start to really root and start to seed, right? Like it can't be um oh my gosh, like when I first started Spark, this is like 12 years ago, there was all the like millionaire manifestation stuff, right? And it was the common, I think this is also still common. The common practice at the time was just tell yourself you have $1 million in the bank. Well, like my brain is automatically like, no, the fuck you don't. Like who? No, you don't. Like you started your business a month ago. What? No. Um, and so like your brain is just gonna reject that, right? It's gonna be like BS, right? But if you start to identify as someone who takes the actions of a millionaire, that is an affirmation that is much easier for your brain to accept, that is much easier for you to start to identify with and to start to shift towards that identity and towards that rewiring. So I just wanted to add that like nuance to it because it's like there's a lot of really great things that affirmations can do. There's also a lot I see online of people like just flat out bashing affirmations. And it's like, well, because you're doing it wrong. Like I don't love telling people they're doing shit wrong, but like that's too far of a leap. Like we gotta again, goal setting, right? The milestones to get there, right? Like make your affirmation from the first milestone, not the end goal, right? Okay, sorry. I thought I'm like with this cold, I thought I was gonna be like super low energy, and here I am just like
That's okay. So here's something about the affirmations that I think is so crucial, and also to again dovetail it with what our group coaching process, our approach is that if you have grown up in a family where you've heard from infancy, people who like money are bad, they're greedy, and they're blah blah blah, for the first solid month that you're going to be in our programs, you're going to need to chip out stuff that doesn't serve you anymore before you start putting in affirmations. Because if you start putting in affirmations, money is good and I love money, or whatever the heck, I just completely totally made that up. But if you just start spouting that off and rah rah, and I'm going to change my life and did it, but there's like a teeny part of your brain that's like, first of all, mom and dad always said that people who had money were bad. If I start moving away from their philosophies, I'm rejecting my parents. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. I'm a terrible person, or whatever. And so there's just, it's complicated. So affirmations absolutely are a psychological chisel that work, and they're also a crowbar that crank your brain open to accept new material. But you can't just throw them at something like Pez, or confetti from a parade float, and think that you're going to instantly transform your life in 3 days or even 3 months. It could take 3 years. Who knows? But it is a tool, and they are worthwhile, and I think they're awesome. And I use them every day. So
Yeah.
there you
Yeah, I
go.
love that. Yeah, definitely the affirmations is definitely a how, like you said, the first step with many things is just the awareness that some sort of action should be taken or needs to be taken. I don't like shooting on ourselves.
Right.
Um, oh,
Question.
yeah.
Isn't there something in the vault we have about mindset? I know we do. We have a
Oh, yeah.
morning thing. I know we have a morning thing. I know we
Like
have
we have like an
a
entire series of like mindset matters.
yeah, we have a mindset one. We have another thing about how to tell people no, because sometimes mindset is saying yes to yourself, and if you're used to never saying yes to yourself and saying yes to everybody else. So I know that there's some stuff just in the vault that has nothing, it's a support piece for our coaching, but it's also a standalone.
Yeah. Yeah, so actually, so yeah, the energy audit manual, I just pulled it up. Thank you, Molly.
Sure.
There's a profitability playbook, which is more revenue focused, but also gets into energy, sales mindset, how to reframe your mindset around sales. And whether you have a business or not, we are selling every day. So definitely helpful stuff there. Triumph over chaos, navigating uncertainty. That's super timely. Can't imagine why we would need that. Focusing your intent. So that is taking the three-letter acronym, the TLA of ROI, instead of return on investment, it's what's your return on intention? How to, like you mentioned, how to say no so you can say yes to you, and then how to focus your day. So focus formula, how to prioritize like a pro. All about energy. So most of this, if not all of it, is all really different forms of how to navigate your energy and how to allocate it to where you really want your attention and your energy to go. That's
Yeah.
if that ain't mindful, I don't know what is.
Yeah. And they've got, like, I know that we have about, I think we've got 13 items right now. And some of them are like the shorter course. Some of them are like a week long. Some of them are can be broken out over the course of a month. So that if you want to, those are kind of like a do it your own course if you want it, really. But there is that one is the Discord channel is free, but the
Yep.
vault there is a small fee, and it's
Yeah, 37 per month
37 per
at the
month
moment.
at the moment. So yeah, you can find those, and then again go at your own pace, and really figure out what matters to you most,
Mhm.
and then just work your way through them.
Yeah,
Be a
absolutely.
completely different person in 12 months, or 6 months, or three
Yeah, I
months,
mean, yeah, it's go at your own pace.
six
So
months for sure. Maybe not 3 months, but I know that the thing that's so cool about mindset work is Oh my gosh, it's 7 o'clock.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Sorry.
That's
Uh,
okay. Don't
let me just
apologize.
finish that thought. Is that the thing about mindset work is that you're usually not the one who notices it first. It's someone around you who will notice that there's a difference in the way that you hold yourself, or the way that you answer questions, or the way that you interact with them. And you might hear, "You've changed," or which, yeah, you might have. So,
I'd
but
be
just
more concerned
FYI.
if you weren't changing.
Yeah, yeah,
That's fantastic. Yes. Thank you for those are great points. Yeah, because like not only like wrapped into that question is not only like define mindful and then how do you start? And then it's like how do you know it's working? So yeah, people are gonna notice. You're going to eventually notice it's like, oh, I praised myself today. Like or you could even notice like also that's also why journaling is really helpful because then you have something that's like concrete to go back to. I mean, it's also going back to like nutrition programs, workout programs. That's why you take before and after photos is because you see yourself in your mirror in the mirror every day. 95% of our thoughts are the same every day. We are not going to notice incremental tiny little shifts. I am noticing my dog walking around back there. Um, and so it's helpful to have something more concrete written down, journal, to go back through, which, if you don't mind me doing a little shameless plug, is why I'm creating a 90-day program. I'm writing a book about, how to change your life in 90 days and get a different prompt every single day. Um, yeah, check back June 3rd. Maybe it'll be written by then. Let's hope. We'll see. We'll see how she goes. But anyways, there's a process for this. So Molly and I have walked countless people through it. So we'd like to help you with that as well as part of our 6-month collab process. So, which can be repeated. It can take
yeah.
more than 6 months.
Well, yeah, because the thing is it's so many. Gosh, I actually like that we're going over a little bit because this is good stuff. Is that Have you ever cleaned out your closet and then started cleaning your room and then started cleaning your dining room and then started cleaning and it's like,
Literally, why my place is a mess right now is because there's like stuff here, there's stuff here. It starts and it doesn't get finished. But I think that's ADHD. But
well,
anyways,
that's it.
yes.
Well, it's just that as you start to figure out, hey, I say yes when I really mean no, and once you master that, sometimes another thing, it's like the package of chips and the little swirly thing. Is that one problem pops out and there's a new little bag for you to work on. It could be another thing that you've learned about yourself, not that's wrong with you, but is just like, wow, I didn't know that. Now I figured out my people pleasing ways. I would also love to work on being stronger with this, or maybe it is the blowback with people at work or your family, and it would be beneficial to have an additional 6 months to say, how do I deal with the new me type of thing, and how does that work? Because the other thing is that when we're in that community and we've got those people, the people around you who want to support you and who want to see you succeed, it can be sometimes the very first time someone's been in a community where you weren't told to don't forget where you came from, or don't get too big for your britches, or blah 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 blah. And so sometimes people have been trained throughout their entire life to keep their light under a bushel. Don't get too big for your pants, and just, So anyway,
Yeah, I mean, how often like are women raised that way? Like we're trained that way of like, oh, children in general are better to be seen and not heard. But it's okay if boys are loud, but like girls, no. Like you have to contain yourself and, you know, people please and you're here to serve everyone. Like, no, no. I feel like I don't feel like I know there is this like mass awakening across women of 40 years and older. They're like sick of people's shit. Like realizing that we're have been trained, quote unquote, in like a certain way, people pleasing way. And it's like, wait a second. Why am I living like this? We get to make our own lives.
Yes. All right. So we do have one thing coming up. I know Ed Kaplan
Yes, on
is
26th.
yeah, he's one of the sponsors for FutureU Labs and CoLab and the labs. And Ed is the founder of LLM Liaison, and he's just this really charming geek. And I think he'd be flattered and okay with being called a geek because I think he actually calls himself a Jedi of some sort. But what I really like about his philosophy and his approach to AI is that he does have a social work background. So he views tech through the lens of how it can support humanity and support your self care and how to help the people in our coaching program really harness large language models to serve them instead of being this mind-boggling, overwhelming, where do I start? How do I make it work for me type of thing. So he'll be speaking February 26th.
26th,
Okay. And that's it.
11 Central.
Thank you.
You're
11
welcome.
Central. Because I know that we're, we're here at 6 and I didn't want to get the time confused for people. So it's,
No, and if
but
you
that's
happen to
just
catch
the
us
important as
before
well.
11 tomorrow, we have group coaching pretty
Oh,
much
yeah.
every Wednesday. Every Wednesday we at 11 Central, we pretty much have something going on, whether it's a group coaching session or a hot seat session where you can have the hot seat and we can workshop whatever it is you want to workshop through. Um where everyone can help and contribute, or co-working. We have a co-working session once a month as well. And then we have a different guest every month. And this month, very excited to have Ed, who's, like Molly said, specialist in large language models, generative AI, and also no tech background required. So he's here to help us increase our productivity and reduce cognitive overload. I love that. So I'm excited to pick his brain a little bit more.
Today was a full one.
Yeah, we were nonstop. So thank you all for joining us. And don't forget to sign up for Collab, get on our newsletter, join the Discord. The newsletter and Discord are free. Collab you can start for as low as 333. And yeah, we'll see you next week. We've got Empower Hour every Tuesday here on YouTube at 6 p.m. Central. So thank you for hanging with us. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your week.